Here it comes. All right.
So you're looking very Steve Jobs this morning.
Well, sir,
Ouren,
I'm
what's
feeling very
happened?
Jobsian today.
The new vocab word of the day.
That's right. Jobsian. It's either Jobsian or not Jobsian. To be Jobsian or not to be Jobsian.
To be or not to be.
You're listening to Automation in the Wild, the Helical Brew series where lab automation gets real. Today, Kate Halter, PhD, on what it takes to earn trust, sell smart, and make automation stick. Welcome, audience, listeners, and viewers, to the latest episode of the Helical Brew, where we are welcoming Kate Halter from San Diego. And I'll give a quick introduction after I tell you the title. The episode title today is Fluent in the Wild, how one neuroscientist traded brain slices for robots. And this is, of course, part of our Automation in the Wild series that we've been working on for the past, what would you say, sir, a month or two?
Yeah,
how many
Fluent
episodes?
in the Field on Automation in the Wild.
Fluent in the Field.
I love
yes.
it.
Fluent in the Field.
I love it.
On Automation in the Wild. Yeah.
It's a fun series for sure.
Yeah, it has been, and we're super excited to have Kate on. So welcome to Automation in the Wild, the Helical Brew series, where we dive into the real-world side of lab automation. No fluff, no theory, just the scientists and engineers out there making it work. Today's guest is Kate Halter, a field sales engineer at Tecan, who went from brain slice prep and, hold on a second, electrophysiology to helping labs across the country get up and running with precision liquid handling systems. So Kate brings a rare blend of scientific depth and technical empathy. With a PhD in neuroscience and hands-on experience in fluorescent imaging, assay development, and animal models, she now helps clients translate complex workflows into intuitive, high-throughput automation with Tecan's Fluent platform, which I can't wait to share my Fluent stories because I was there at Tecan early on in the development. But that aside, Kate, welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
We're glad to
Thanks,
have you.
Mike. Thanks, Sura. Thanks, Elizabeth. Really glad to be here today.
So we always like to
Dr.
kick it
Kate
off.
Halter.
Dr. Halter. I don't hear that too much anymore. I just,
Nope.
gosh, that intro was like, man, he knows so much about me. That's amazing. Yeah.
LinkedIn is amazing, and
We do our
Sura's
research.
guest notes are
Yeah.
next level. So
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, geez, I revealed it. No, this is my
Yeah.
secret. No, what am I doing?
Behind
No,
the curtain.
Of course, I did not write that in my head as I was saying. Not going to happen. So Kate, welcome. And we
Yeah,
always like to
thank
start
you.
things out with a little bit of an icebreaker. So you've gone from pipettes to Fluent arms. What's one thing your past lab self would never believe you get to do now?
And this is the
Yeah.
lab self that sliced brain tissue,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, the lab self that was listening to podcasts alone in a lab for strange hours in the day. Like we would get up at 6 a.m. or sometimes earlier to get in and run these brain slice experiments. I studied circadian rhythms, so we had to do it during certain times. And I don't think that the person that was sitting in that dark laboratory would be out and about taking flights back and forth to client sites and, working with some of the most intelligent people that I've interacted with on robots. Like that is just crazy. I think to say that I'm in the field of engineering is one that I've just landed upon, and it's a very strange journey, but like I feel that it's just we all have like snaking paths, and you just look back and you're like, wow, I think every little bit of my experience has helped me to where I'm at today. But and now being on this podcast is one of those things that I never thought I would do. Yeah, it's been a real cool journey.
I know
Well,
we're very brilliant people. Thank you for mentioning it.
Oh,
Well,
so
yeah, I'm glad
smart.
being on the
Yeah.
podcast is one of those, unimaginable things
Yeah.
from your past self. So that's
It's way better than a Gordon conference, that's for sure. Yeah.
so spending time on the road and visiting other places and labs was not really something you were doing in that role. You were
Yeah.
pretty much
It always felt like there's this like top secret world, right? So did my PhD at the University of Tennessee, and that's right next to like Oak Ridge National Lab. And to get into the cool lab, you literally have to go through like all of these different security gates that are separated by like a mile or two a piece. And it always felt like being in one of those very sophisticated labs was a, you know, you had to jump through a lot of hoops, you had to fill out background checks, and, you know, you always felt like you were doing something guilty going through these like security platforms. But now all I have to do is just offer a lab like a bunch of pizza and they'll let me right in. So
Scientists and food go hand in hand.
There's a secret to get in, and it's not through the security gate. Yeah.
Well, what was the like first thing you, I don't know, caught onto, or phone call you made, or conversation you had? I mean, you know, that said, you know what, I'm going to change direction. I'm going to go off into this world of vendors.
Yeah. So I had in my academic journey, like, really wanted to explore biotech industry. And to be honest, like, there wasn't a lot of it in Knoxville, Tennessee. And when I graduated, I started working for a small biotech company called Biotech with Dan Close, and we were helping develop an autobioluminescent technology that goes into neurons and cells. And I was working at the bench, and Dan had asked me if I were interested doing some of the more like business development tasks. Let's explore the business side of it. I got to go to SLAS with him and network with a lot of vendors and amazing people. And going to SLAS the first time was like, oh my God, look at all of these cool tools. I want to work with that. I want that in my lab. But I didn't think about the sales side of automation until I moved out to San Diego. My husband had got an offer to work for a small biotech out here, and I took a small sales role. I enjoyed that little bit of business development exposure that I had. I talked to a couple friends and just decided to make the jump into a different side of the industry. And it's been a really, really good fit for the last few years.
Don't you feel like everybody says that about sales? I just took a jump. Like, it has
it's
to
like
be this
so
like
scary,
dramatic off the cliff thing.
But and it has like, there was so much decision making and conversations that I had with other people, because you spent all of this time like dedicated to your craft as a scientist, and then to like say, oh, I'm gonna go and do sales. Like, my family was even like, you're gonna waste like all that time that you did. And I said, well, it's a scary like transition, but the more people that I talk to in sales roles, in automation in particular, that's a common story for a lot of sales folk. And I think that kind of like brings us together.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get some people that are in the customer facing sales oriented role, even if it's sort of back end. Like, I wouldn't say, you know, business development is not back end in the sense that it's not customer facing. It's just more strategic, right? And you're getting voice of customer and things like that. But all those things combined are, you know, it takes, I think, a mental shift to move from, this is my role as I was a robotics engineer. I was an electrical engineer, right? Sales was not on the list, but sales is never on the list. You gravitate to sales for whatever reason, or whether it's, you know, sales or even, like I said, customer facing. It's all sales. If you're facing the customer, it's all sales, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's, you know, and that acumen will reward you for the rest of your life. But I mean, you don't see that in the initial transition, right? You just see it as like, well, or other people might be like, oh my gosh, you went to school for this, and all that stuff. But yeah, no, that's great. That's finding the right company. Also, I would imagine, you know, you found a great company, and finding the right company to make that transition with. The cool thing about our industry, and let me know if you agree. I mean, I think the fact that we have all this rich science, and you really need to know the science no matter what role you have, or at least the application of your instrument, and with a liquid handler. I mean, talk about, it's the piano of this industry, right? You've got the most octaves, you've got the most notes to play. It's the baseline of any process, or many processes, and then you have all this more specialized stuff around it.
And when you fine tune it, like, the arias that come off of
Yeah.
that. Like, it's just amazing.
Oh, she went deep in that
Yeah.
Shaman!
Yeah.
Oh, this worked.
A
right?
magnifique.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Magnifique. Yeah, it's like a good. Did you just have a good Italian meal? No, we just did a whole bunch of science that we thought was really hard.
Yeah. Did you see that gripper move that plate? Millimeter to spare, just a millimeter.
I gotta admit, though, it is gratifying when you've been teaching something for a while and you finally get it so that plate lands without any noise, and you're like, yes.
Yeah.
Fist pump
sigh of relief.
zone.
Yeah.
All right, it's time to go for dinner.
Life in the field.
Exactly. Exactly. So, well, fantastic. Yeah. And life in the field, how often would you say you travel?
So I cover the greater San Diego area with another rep that's been with Tecan, Ed Kraft. He's fantastic. So he and I might bounce around to some sites together or go to vendor shows. I also cover Arizona and now Nevada, which is fantastic. And I get out to Arizona probably once a month, and then Nevada, I'm trying to get on a cadence of like once every 2 months at least.
That's a good setup. So,
Yeah.
I mean, walk us through a typical, scenario where you're doing an install and bringing a process to life with the instrument. How does that kind of start out?
It's like bringing back to that like culmination of events. Like the installation is something that I like to be on site for, of course, helping coordinate and make sure that like everything goes smoothly. It takes the work of a team that's cross country, and after the sales finish, like, your work kind of just starts, right? Like it's the full support of, in the same way that you try to make connections and network to find new customers, it's like you also have to have those connections with your coworkers
Internally.
so that, you can all as a team be successful. But yeah, those are the really exciting days because like, just like Jurassic Park, where there's a Velociraptor coming in on like a big semi truck, here comes a Fluent, and the reveal for clients, like I always wish that I could like take pictures of their faces when it gets unboxed for the first time, unless it's a repeat customer, but like there's just this like, here it is moment, because it's just really, really cool and special.
First of all, that's the first time I've heard that analogy of a Tecan being compared to a Velociraptor, so that's awesome. And then when you first started, I was like, where's she going with this? Jurassic Park?
Yeah, like it's a lot less dangerous, but there's still this like, oh, we gotta get it in the
we have
lab.
safeguards, right?
Like,
There's light curtains and other
totally.
things to make sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, the Tecan Evo was very famous for having a no cellular telephone use sticker on it for many years. Maybe the
really?
Fluent
Yeah.
sticker should be no Velociraptors in proximity of the instrument. Marketing, if you're listening, we have an idea.
Yeah.
Next SLAS swag, come by the Tecan booth. We'll have a little tiny dinosaurs.
Velociraptors, take you back to the first Jurassic Park. Here we go. So I know mistakes can happen. And are there any common mistakes that you've seen labs make when they're bringing on a new automated system or instrument? I mean, a Tecan or any some of these pipetting devices, you could call an entire system because they do so many things.
But you have to do some prep, and I'm wondering, like, if there's anything that you see that you identify as, hey, you weren't really ready for this, were you?
I would say like electric receptacles. Like you need to. It's not just one plug for, the robot.
Yeah.
And if you have multiple devices that are integrated, you have to do the math and make sure that you have your electrical plugs all set up. It's like 120 volts, so it's not a big deal. But like sometimes in a smaller lab or an academic space where you're like squeezing it into a closet and then there's like no electricity, you're like, okay. But I think in my time, like I've learned that going in and doing that like pre-site survey is super important so that you can like avoid those mistakes. But then again, we're human, things happen, movers might shift or like wiggle a little bit and you're like, hold that tight. But like you do everything you can to make it go as smooth as possible. But yeah, electrical plugs I think would be the big one.
Sometimes it's just the simplest things. It's like the assumed thing, and it's true. Some of these labs are built out more thoroughly than others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had a
for
lab that was
facilities.
built on top of an elevator shaft, and they just put
Lovely.
like boards down. And then when they
Uh-huh.
told me of the weight, the facilities guy came and did a ball bearing. He's like, "I'll tell you why you can't buy this next liquid handler." And he drops the ball bearing, and it just went towards the divot in the floor.
Oh.
And I was like,
No way.
Okay.
Don't
let's
walk
talk
on
about
that.
moving this lab.
It's one thing to be challenged for space, but that's really taking it
Yeah.
next level.
Yeah.
The 490 Biotech that I worked at in Knoxville was a small startup, and it was in a renovated elementary school kitchen. It was just so funny because like my mom used to be a lunch lady, and my dad was an engineer for like the big three auto industry. So like being an engineer or a scientist like in a kitchen space was just like the weirdest thing. But yeah, it's like they used to plug ovens in here, so like we could plug in other devices. Yeah.
And get
Yeah,
lunch.
And get lunch, yeah. Hot sloppy joes, ready to go.
I've had
Oh
two.
man, remember school sloppy joes? I remember like we
Yeah.
didn't have that in my country. So when I came to public school and they
Yeah.
had that, I was like, what is this messy meat on a bun? And then I had a bite
Messy
and I was
hamburger.
like, holy jeez.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Sloppy
good for
Joe.
someone who didn't grow up eating it. I'm like, this is not
Yeah.
rice.
Or this is not rice.
Reminds me of the song Sloppy Joe, Sloppy, Sloppy Joe.
Joe, yeah. Sloppy joes.
Our Grammy is in the mail. So, I mean, do you do some of the training or participate in some of the training for the customers yourself? Or?
Participate as like a shadow figure, like trying not to interrupt, but the training is performed by our applications engineering team. And, I like to go and shadow and, see how the instrument's installed, see what their application is, and, be a fly on the wall because I want to learn more. Sometimes I really wish that I could operate these instruments more readily, but I just try to sit and absorb as much as I can from the people that really know what they're doing.
So very often I find, you bring resources in for training or for consultation on certain things, aspects of the technology of how you're going to apply it. We find that in robotics all the time, but I'm the one with most of the face-to-face time with the customer, which I imagine you also are in that position where you've had the most exposure to the customer. So the question is, I think this is a really good one it's in here, is about, do you find yourself having to play scientist or therapist in when you're bringing in training or even other engineering resources? You're like, oh no, let me clarify, and sort of syncing people up because you've got the background to do that.
Yeah.
You find yourself in that role.
Yeah, and I do think that there's a lot of psychology and empathy that you have to have with your clients to like kind of understand what timelines they're on. And I think that that's where like the biggest negotiation strategy for maintaining good emotional rapport with your clients is like just really understanding like how important their work is and how important getting that work done is for the general public, right? So it's like you have to have this like wider view of doing a good job and making good recommendations to keep everybody happy. And I think at first I struggled with that because my background's in science, but it's not in automation and it's not working with these robots. So I've had to build up my confidence in that regard with more experience and with working on more projects to really be that like voice to say, yes, I hear you. I think that, that's a good idea that can be done. But for an automation project, you're thinking of something long term, you're thinking of future proof, maybe this is the better solution. And, I rely heavily on conversations with my engineers just to like double check and fact check because I don't want to tell somebody the wrong advice either. So, you still have to do your research and still need to make sure that like there's sound logic behind what you're suggesting. And with time it comes easier. But yeah, that was really hard to like navigate through. at first, especially with clients that have been in the game for a long time and, have used a variety of liquid handlers. And yeah, it's like you feel a little small sometimes,
You
but
get one of those
yeah.
customers who's like, "Oh, let me show you this trick I found."
Yeah, or like
inside baseball
we should
or
have did
something.
this, or we should have did this, like during the sale. And it's like, okay, yeah, you know what, you're right. And I think that you have to be able to like learn and adapt and like just stay honest throughout the entire process. Yeah.
I'm sure you find that too, Elizabeth, right? Where you're, you've got this back and forth and recognizing when things are going sideways, which in the integration world, when you're dealing with technologies from different vendors, software that has to connect with all of them, and it can be a recipe. So I think and the robots are always the first thing to blame. Not always, but sometimes, robot's not moving. That was more in my industrial automation background. I don't hear that so much in life science, but in the, if somebody put a robot in the middle of this huge automation system, hey, the robot's not moving. That's the first thing you hear, but that's, maybe 5% of the time the actual problem that comes up. And so, yeah, getting folks coordinated on what the messaging is going to be. Any favorite MacGyver moments you've had where like save the day, you like went in and just swooped in, came up with something, some
Connected
contraption,
two electrical cords together.
Yeah. Just get zapped. Yeah.
I have on it. I have a power brick.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
I mean, I think to come in and save the day, like honestly, like I think that our engineering team really does that. So like I save the day with donuts, and I save the day with responding to emails. Yeah,
right.
But
exactly.
like
timing can be everything.
Yeah. But like I think going in and talking with a customer and like revealing those problems that they don't know are problems, or those like small optimizations that can make their workflow better by just listening to them, and then communicating back with my team and saying like, hey, we've got to get in and help with qualifying a new liquid class, or a client is struggling with getting their tubes weighed and they're not sitting in a runner quite right and they're kind of like wobbling a little bit. So like my real superheroes definitely are the engineering team, because they'll go in, work magic, and yeah, it's really amazing what they can do.
Right on. Sometimes it's just the timing of when you call somebody in.
Yeah,
exactly. It's all because, things can sit too long, or you can get in too early,
right?
And not have all the information available. So yeah, a lot of it is timing. So I completely get that.
Good point there. Yeah.
So moving into the move from science into tech. And moving into that. Did you go? So when you kind of got into the robot space with where you're at right now, did you go into a lot of training, or did you just get exposure to the instruments out in the field in some of your roles, or how did you learn to speak robot?
Lots of training.
Okay.
We had probably 2 separate weeks in Raleigh where there was like some onboarding, and then we go through a Fluent control training ourselves. So we learn how to program the robot, what features are in the software. And that was like the most exciting time, because that's when I could make a robot move, and like even having it just pipette from a trough to a runner, and using one of the smart commands and filling out the right information, and like just seeing it run was like, okay, now this gives me like a little more clout, because here I am as somebody who's never automated before, and now I can make this instrument run. And it all happened in like a day, and it was really, really one of my favorite parts of like starting this job, because I want to get in and I want to be able to, move those robots around. And then we have like, continuing trainings for new products that come out, and weekly trainings that give us updates on software. And like, there's so much that's happening in the automation world. We try to you want to stay like one step ahead of the game, right? Because you don't want to talk to a client. They say, hey, I want to integrate this new centrifuge and you've never heard of it before. So like I try to get out there and, hear on the ground from like what people are doing. So I think your question about, was there a lot of like experience in learning from the customers? Like, yeah, I think that's where I get most of my knowledge from the day to day.
Right. And I mean, you really, how do you quickly understand what a customer needs? I mean, I guess listening, you already mentioned that, right? Is a big piece, right?
Yeah.
Understand what the real need is, because often the need can be conveyed in somewhat camouflage of what the real need is, not knowing about what your product does or how it does it, right? You find yourself in that sort of translation to be able to understand what the needs are, but also to come back and explain how they fit.
Yeah. And
that was my favorite part of, my favorite part of my role is that being able to refine it down faster, to go from open-ended, what's your problem, to, getting to something you can begin to have a response around your product with.
Yeah. It'd be so fun too when you have like a new problem, or, a client comes to you with hey, we just did this project, but like, let's talk about this new thing. And just when they have that trust with you to like spitball ideas, is just really, really exciting.
Do you have an approach for when a customer, knows they need your product, or they need automation in general, and they're not quite certain on how to convey what they need? Do you have a technique for that?
Just go into the lab.
Just go into the lab?
Right. Yeah. Show and tell that's my favorite strategy.
Yeah. I mean, do you have those moments where you're like, well, our product can do these things, but there's this thing you're asking that maybe isn't in the wheelhouse, right?
Totally.
And you kind of guide them to in the direction that makes the most sense. And
or if like timing for, like something custom, you have this big dream of, I want to automate everything, and we can do that. Yes, absolutely. It's going to take some time, but is there a solution and like a piecemeal pathway to get you to that fully automation point so that you can learn and grow with your automation as you get running? So I think that was something that I've learned with time, which, you think about tiny little work cells that have like a Brooks arm, and they're moving a plate in and out of a plate reader in a stack. And it's like, that's a good small spot to start before you jump into something larger sometimes. But then again, like if you want to go full tilt, let's go, baby. Yeah.
But it does sound like you take kind of a step back together with them to kind of look at the bigger picture, because you kept mentioning like, this might work now, but what is the long-term solution for the client? So it's good sometimes when you're meeting with scientists, because you're right, sometimes they want to do everything and either the budget doesn't meet it or it doesn't make sense for it to grow with them. So it sounds like you're taking that moment to say, all right, this is great, but
but what's going to work for you? What's going to work for your lab? Yeah. And I think that's where like I rely on some of the MacGyver skills that I had in grad school, like coming from a lab that had just like a little bit of money. It's like, okay, I understand that, buying an antibody is even hard for some of these labs sometimes. So what is that smallest solution to just like make your lives a little easier? And then just keep sending brochures about the bigger stuff. No. For one day when you guys
have a flyer.
When it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I and that was something that I think, the big takeaway for Elizabeth and I in Hamburg at the SLAS in Hamburg was, there's always going to be a place for the big grandiose machines, right? That are doing everything. Because if you need it, right? And those are usually more spaced out investments. But there's so many like instruments just hanging out, just all by themselves, that often need automation, right? And even a standalone pipetter can just, by having a robot arm next to it, can now access 3 or 4 more things.
Yeah.
And its value can be increased significantly for a relatively low amount of money.
Or just like shaking the dust off a liquid
Right.
handler that has been in storage for a
These
little
things
while.
last,
They're
Yeah.
very well made. I love those stories too. And those ones are the most challenging, I think, is like, how can I take this diamond in the rough and like shine it up a little bit and make it this new amazing robotic system? Like I love those challenges.
Yeah. Well, here's one for you. What does it take to build trust with bench scientists who are skeptical of sales?
I just have to remember that they're human too, and maintaining your integrity and your honesty and like transparency around pricing, I think has always been something that like I want to keep as a core value so that I just am a trustworthy human being. Yeah, I don't know.
Build rapport, build trust.
Yeah. Go to lunch, get to know somebody. Yeah.
Well, this can lead right into
bribery with food.
Food, it's to the heart.
Donuts,
yeah. I love
coffee.
eating. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I think the ones that got into my lab were always like, I'll bring your team donuts. I'm like, all right, you can come.
You can come in.
This is simple brain response behavior analysis.
Yeah. And like, I love to bake. I love to make cookies. And I do that for, friends and family. Like, I have entered
We're
pie
not friends and
contests
family?
before.
No Helical Brew cookies?
Cookies. I will make a Helical
time.
Brew pie. I will
Yes,
make
it
Helical
has to
Brew
have
pie.
pastry.
I will
would look
carve the
very
logo.
good.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be
You
hard.
will be
but
all over LinkedIn if you do that. I will
That'll be on
blast
my
the
next
heck out of
one.
that picture.
Yeah. I will get to work on that.
That would be next level.
Look
Before
at that.
the
We're
release.
in pies now, guys.
Pies. What flavor should a Helical Brew pie be?
That's a good question.
It's a good
I don't know.
question.
It's got to be one with a crust so that I can carve the logo on.
I was gonna say banana cream, but then that defeats
Something
that.
to
Strawberry
ponder.
rhubarb?
Yeah.
How
That's
about
a
good old
good
apple?
one. A for automation.
We've
A for
digressed.
apple.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mike was gonna
No,
keep us in line.
Oh, but we're talking about the next thing. It's like this is lessons from the field
Food,
that make
yeah.
automation stick, right? In terms
Yeah.
of, the whole when you the separation between automation, them, your customer calling you up and saying, "Hey, we love what we did here. We want to replicate it," and the ones that don't. Do you have any thoughts there as what separates those two as far as repeat customers and adoption?
Yeah. I think like service and support throughout their journey. Like, you want to set up long-term partnerships because these instruments will run for years and they are large investments that people have spent a pretty penny on and a lot of their time to really figure out what is going to make their lives easier. And if that instrument doesn't make their lives easier, they will have very strong opinions and let you know. So I think that you want what's best is just call in and check in regularly, see how things are going because it's hard. I think sometimes as a scientist and, I myself would try to learn how to fix the instrument or how to like do it myself if I were in a lab. And sometimes I'm still guilty of this where it's like I, don't want to reach out for help right away. But I think breaking down that barrier and asking if somebody needs help first before they reach out to you, that really helps build that relationship.
Yeah, anticipating things or just checking in, it's
Just
like
checking in.
I'm glad you called,
Yeah.
They,
How's
they
it running? Yeah.
often
How's it
people will
running?
queue up a few things.
That reminds me
Yeah,
of
they're like,
prank
it's
calls.
not. Yeah, you're like, oh God.
Well, you
Is
called.
your refrigerator running?
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, did you unplug it and plug it back
Yeah.
in? Did you reinitialize? Yeah, it's like I'm
Office
a
Space.
IT too. Yeah.
You're listening
mean-
to Comcast support. Hold music.
Tecans
it.
have been out and about in the field, since there was automation. At this point, not only have you had good installs and bad installs, but you've also got a lab that became like, super users with minimal support from your team. What clicked there?
Yeah.
What, recipe occurred in that lab that got these people so excited and motivated and they became super users of your product? Because that's a good selling point too for your reputation as a company.
Yeah, totally. I think it's training. Training's important. You want to make an individual a super user. Like Tecan's message is empowerment. And I really do feel that like we stick with that by providing training and providing access to like APIs so that if you want to hack into that system, you want to make it work better for you. Like automation is like endless, right? It's limitless. And like you don't want to restrain somebody in their creativity. And I think that those are like the customers that continue to come back. It's like, okay, well, what else can we do now? Like, how can we continue to push that envelope? How can we succeed in our industry by breaking the next boundary? And it's through the training and like just learning how to program and script and dealing with those errors and getting
But I
through
think that's
them,
a good point you bring in, and Mike maybe can attest to this. I think Tecan was one of the first that I was able to put Python code right on top in the system and be able to use it that way. And I think that was freeing as a scientist and an engineer on site to be able to just program what you needed, right?
Yeah, it's like you're not limited by that box that it's in, and like even that software box. And I wish that I was a better programmer so I could, speak about that more intelligently and like how to do it. But, just even with like user interfaces so that it's more friendly to use. Like if you have a Python code that will just make the input and export of data like more easily accessible.
It keeps
I think that like
away, like it abstracts it away so it's less complicated when you have a UI, right?
Yeah, exactly. And users that are using like VB scripts to manage like very, very large data sets for creating thousands of small molecules, reconstituting them, and then, delivering that to their scientists so that they can do their high throughput assays. Like it's a lot of data. And, sometimes the user interface, like you need to know that next level of coding sometimes to like manage some of those larger data sets. And and that's where like my knowledge kind of stops. And I'm just like, our engineers can like help you with that or like make suggestions. But those are like the smartest people out there that can like manage those large data sets.
Yeah, I feel like the data has driven a lot of the software demand or approach to software in the instrumentation space because of the complexity of the data. The software development process has gone into a territory that this industry didn't spend much time in, Python and also more big data services, where you can do cloud big data manipulation without having to do it locally. All these things that I've seen come about. I think that's all kind of now coming back. It's like a wave that hit the wall, and it's come back to us in the form of, hey, I'd really like to control that.
We've moved the bottleneck, right? Automation.
Move the bottleneck, right.
80,000 variants, and suddenly you have 80,000 like diverse pieces of data. Like at some point, we've moved the bottleneck. Now we're hitting that again. Now we have to resolve that. So totally good
And then
point,
to keep
Mike.
track of it. Yeah, to keep track of it all with your LIMS system, to keep track of like who's been running that system and like all of that data to like select which molecule that you want to use like out of a huge library store that you have and like integrating all these software pieces together. Like that's, I think, like you want everything to work in concert, and that, like you had said earlier, was like one of the biggest challenges. Like, you've got your automation project and you're doing one smaller thing, but like how does that work in the whole ecosystem of your laboratory?
Yeah, that's the other thing is like what is IT going to push back on? What's going to be compatible? It's like, oh, you want me to qualify yet another cloud service vendor to be in the,
exactly.
To have access inside the walls, right? I mean, that's we see that all the time. Fortunately, robots are usually at a layer just below connectivity to the outside world. You actually don't want robots talking to the outside world. You want them in their own little corner doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
But all this other stuff has to talk to the other world. And they've got, bottlenecks, or I would say even roadblocks that are impeding that. But the software approach, it's gone from, hey, that's proprietary, it's gone from, hey, that's okay, that's proprietary, I get it, it's running that instrument, to, hey, that's proprietary, couldn't that use with something like more common in terms of coding capability and things like that? And I think that's the pushback I've seen in all fronts, is like, I need to get inside that instrument and get the data out now. How do I do that? And I also need to be able to tell that instrument what to do dynamically from a cloud source. And we're not there yet, right? But
The
Or
next
like,
one's
how
gonna
can I
be,
do
I
that
need
from
it
my
to.
home office?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I need to read my mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Plug into my neural network and pipette right now.
I am a neural net processor learning computer. Yeah. Yeah. I
Just
wish
mind
that
meld
would be
with the liquid handler.
Terminator 3. No. It's just a pipetter. It's fine.
Isn't there a Terminator 3 though? Arnold, isn't there already? So it's Terminator 4.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know how
I'm
many
in
there
one of the
are.
cutscenes. I am in a
Yeah.
cutscene on Terminator 3.
Did you know this about him, Kate?
No way.
Oh, it's awesome.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on the cutting room floor, but it made the DVD.
And it's going to make this podcast. Yeah.
No,
I
it's
wanna
already
see
been
that
on this
clip.
podcast.
Has it? Yeah. Okay. I gotta.
We like
But
to
that
Gotta
was
go back
the
in
one-
the archives. Yeah.
That was the one where I remember seeing her on set. Kristana Loken could take her like Terminator gadget, and turn the device against somebody, like make a car drive itself or any electronic thing. But I was just thinking of it that way. The Terminator 3 approach to taking over an instrument.
Our in-house roboticist.
Yes.
Out to lunch, but in-house. So thinking about like sales, right? And there are going to be more scientists that transition into the customer facing role. I've seen it all the time. I've been in this industry for 25 years. But I'm really curious to get your advice on that transition and what mindset like shift helped you make that leap from academia to sales. Like, was there just like a click or a click over time?
Yeah.
On that.
Or
I
COVID.
think
COVID,
definitely COVID
yeah.
for sure. Definitely COVID. But I think just like embracing that side of you and that you can be good at talking to people and being an extroverted person is a skill. I think that until I like fully said like, hey, I'm a scientist that does sales and own it, and like closing a couple deals definitely helped build that confidence for sure. But I think for, I'll have, old grad school friends contact me on LinkedIn because like the job market is tough right now for scientists, and like especially in biotech, and
San Diego.
people are, Sandy, oh, hello, come back to life. But we're getting there. I think we're getting there. I think this year's going to be really good. But my advice is just like put yourself out there and stay unique, like you have this idea in your head of what a salesperson is or what they do from day to day, but like stay true to yourself in your interactions. And like if there's I had a mentor here at my company, Colleen Falls, she said, if
Colleen.
Yeah. She had said, like, you're optimistic, like, stay optimistic. And if there's a client that is like super negative and like very difficult, like, try to work with them, but like you can also choose who you work with, right? So like you want to foster like good relationships. And I think that was one piece of advice that I got that, made me stay true to myself and helps me maintain my values as I think about, progressing in this field and, being successful or trying to be as best I can.
All right. Well,
you guys have advice? Yeah.
No, I mean, it sounds like
been
it's
doing
very
this
much
before. Yeah.
But it sounds like very much, what I've heard, right? Because you do have this bit of an imposter syndrome a little bit when you're kind of been cultivating as a scientist and suddenly now you're sales. And part of sales is to not only sell the company and the product, but yourself, right? Because you're getting these connections, or at least the way I understand it. So how do you handle that, right? And you just spoke to that. It's a lot of keeping to your own integrity and your own values, right?
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Right. Yeah, and like scientific integrity as well. Like if you're going to tell somebody that an instrument can or cannot do something, like you need evidence. Like at the end of the day, like you want some data behind what you're saying. And I think that can sometimes be the most convincing is just stats and facts. Like you just got to hit them with the books.
Hit them with data.
Yeah.
Well, I think the transition is it for every, it depends on what people are comfortable with to begin with, right? I mean, it's not, they're not going to change their personality completely moving into that role. But I think that's, I think it was good advice from Colleen, right? In terms of, you just have to stay true to what what you like doing. And part of this is just helping people, and if we just like to help people and use all of our collective experience to do that, it's very rewarding. I walk out of a customer and sometimes it's just little things that made that customer visit a fist pump visit, on the way out, and so that's super cool.
I wonder if you have ever had to fire a customer. Because sometimes
good one.
And the thing is that sometimes you have to also be true to yourself and put some kind of stop and say, okay, this is not going to work or something like that, without cutting the relationship or just I'm thinking when you definitely think that it will not work out.
Yeah, not at my current company, but I would say in the past, definitely like this isn't going to do what you think it's going to do. You're telling me you want A and it's not going to do A, and they're like, well, why don't you sell me A for cheaper? And like, will you try it out? And it's like, well, I'm not going to, because I know it's not going to work. Like, and I know it's going to be a bad experience for everybody. And even if it's cheap, you've still spent money on this. And I would rather suggest that you have an alternative solution. And there are alternatives, and sometimes there's not. And sometimes you just have to like wait for technology to like catch up. Haven't had any boardroom firings where it's like take a client out to dinner and like you're in a public arena so they can't get too upset.
I'm gonna need to take your license key.
There is something to be said though, to just make sure that you're completely transparent, right? At some point you just have to be completely clear. Like you can buy the most expensive system, but it's still not going to get you away from this problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that is a good one to end on.
Elizabeth coming in from left field. Hashtag fired.
Boom. Oh, that was fantastic. No, that's true. I absolutely, I've been there. I've done it.
Yeah.
I've done it.
It's a hard,
not that common, but
hard conversations. Like you learn from that, and like you can pick out good projects like in the future. And that's really exciting to work on.
No, it was I before we go to the next thing, I was going to mention to you, so my first customer when I came on board at Precise in 2014, the first customer I visited in the field was Tecan and Monadorf.
No way.
Yeah. No, I was
awesome.
I thought you'd appreciate that one, because that was I was first time I've flown into Switzerland, flown into Zurich. I'd driven through because I worked for a Swiss company before, but that was great. At the time, it was Uwe. He ran probably before, I think he left before you joined, but he was there, and I think Hans Peter was there as well. But that was fun.
I'm dying to get over there. Like I've been waiting for opportunity.
Stay downtown and commute by a train and walk to the office so you can
go see the lake, and then
lake view. Exactly.
Go climb. Oh my gosh, the Matterhorn. Like while I'm over there, like just go be in the Alps. Like it just sounds like such a beautiful place. Yeah, that's a good
1 week
first
of
client
training,
visit.
2 weeks of enjoyment. Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Well, now is the time, Kate, for our famous. This is world famous. We're talking. We're going to get a patent on this, trademark it. I swear we're the first ones to do it. Probably not.
We're going to say that we are.
This is our pick. We're going to say that we are. That's how we are. That's how Steve Jobs would have done it. It's very Jobs.
Got to patent everything. Yeah.
So the pick of the week. So, and of course, guest always gets the first shot.
Yeah.
And it could be a resource, article, podcast, even a tool that you think scientists should know about to make automation less intimidating, or
just
things that make travel less stressful. Whatever. It doesn't always have to be about science.
So I'm going to lean into the travel and lean into something that I was surprised that I enjoy to use, because you'd mentioned this before, like AirPods, not good for podcasts, not good for like hearing client meetings, and being hands-free is really important so you can take notes. And I'm Italian, I talk with my hands anyways, but something that I purchased recently to help on my runs was the like shocks.
Oh, the
headphones.
shocks, yeah.
Yeah, that are like open ear. And I didn't have my AirPods on me one day, but I had these packed for a travel trip. So I used these for some of my meetings, and it was just like so much more comfortable.
It worked.
It worked so well. And I bought these for my marathon, so they have an extremely long battery life. Like they did not cut out. I was even like dumping water on my head, and one of the earbuds like went out for a little bit, but then it came back on. So it's like even waterproof. So if you have to do a business meeting like 10,000 leagues under the sea, maybe this will work. Or in the shower, yeah.
Is it have
Which
a
like the work from
microphone?
home lifestyle is real, yeah. Huh?
Does it have a microphone?
Yeah, it's got a microphone. Yeah, you can have full conversations with this, and it's like super lightweight. So
Nice.
And it's
Just
literally
something real-
vibrating the bone in front of your ear instead of
Yeah.
transmitting sound pressure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like this is what the
You can
military
hear what's
uses
going on.
for tactical hearing, like because a speaker would not work if
Yeah.
like you got loud noises and things around you. So yeah, and also when you're running, right, you can still have full use of your ears. You're not like you know, gonna miss the truck that's the
world
electric
is
vehicle
ending.
that's
Yeah.
sneaking up behind you, right? That's what I've been.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
The
You did that
Tesla
really
backup
well.
noise. Yeah. I just hear it so yeah, it's just that is one of my fears, yeah, for sure. is, like,
Welcome
not hearing
to
that suddenly.
science fiction.
Yeah, so this is one way that I become a little more robotic.
So
Yeah.
and there you go. You're still helping labs stay on rhythm, just like those circadian neurons.
Oh,
used
and
to.
they're probably
Bingo.
super.
Yeah.
They're probably super safe for labs too, because your hearing isn't obstructed. Because sometimes some labs make you take out one earbud so you can hear, like for safety reasons. So that's good.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's not noise canceling, but the sound quality is like still really fantastic. So if you're still manual pipetting and listening to podcasts, we can hook you up with two
You
things: one of these guys and a liquid handler.
Call Kate right now and you'll get a free shocks. Oh wait,
I'm not telling you all
Gonna
my
make you
tricks. I'm
buy
not telling you all my
everyone's-
tricks. Yeah,
With every Tecan Fluent XL, you can.
yeah. My marketing team's gonna go wild. Yeah.
It's a
I
good
missed what
bundle.
you
It's
said,
like-
Mike.
yeah.
Say that line again. That sounded fun. It
What
matched her neurobiology background.
Oh. You want the full quote? And honestly, you're still helping labs stay on rhythm, just like those circadian neurons.
I love a good rhythm. Love
a good rhythm. So I will do. Anyone else pick of the week?
No. We know the segment's
Negative
coming.
Ghost Rider.
and
The
still.
pattern is full. I love that line from.
Do you have one,
from
Mike?
Top Gun. I do, and this is from my trip. My quick trip to San Diego.
Or he ignored us both.
Yeah, thanks. Never again. Never again. And we need
You guys
to
got to do
meet up,
something about
Sura.
that traffic
Yeah.
in San Diego. I was in traffic for more time than is acceptable for.
You got to drive through Rancho Bernardo. You got to drive through Rancho Santa Fe.
I know. Can
yeah.
I see your route? I feel like you could have made it more efficient.
Yeah.
All right, I'll send it to you. That's fine. It was Apple's route, not mine.
Yeah.
So we have kind of a brewery twin in our space that we discovered in the process of coming up with a name for Helical Brew, and
Yeah.
I went down to their brewery, and I got some T-shirts for our
Amazing.
crew. I had to go off of what they had. I mean, they told me they're not like that big into swag, so they just kind of had some ones. But anyway, here's one of the shirts.
Puff Puff Pale.
He likes
It's
brewing.
very SoCal. Yep.
That's one of them. Helix
time.
Brewing in La Mesa, so
Mhm.
right there off the 8. I mean, they're literally. I could throw.
That's why it
I could
took
throw
so
a piece of styrofoam
long.
and hit the 8.
You went to
Yeah,
La Mesa.
yeah, right.
Mhm.
Well, that's where they are.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I
I don't
know.
know.
Yeah, it
I
didn't
did
click.
back calculate the traffic to. I did back calculate traffic to where you're at, and I'm like, I don't know. This
No,
looks
I
pretty
am
ugly.
so east. It's ridiculous. Ooh,
That's another
Ooh,
one.
another nice color.
So
I like
another
that
shirt,
color.
and all right, well, because it's your shirt. All right,
Oh,
so that's
sweet!
Yeah.
And it has horses.
Nice.
Look at that.
The dog.
Haze.
I love
Haze
it.
for horses. Haze for horses. Yeah.
Man, the
And
San Diego breweries have some really good swag.
Yeah, I'm surprised you
Well,
said
and
that.
that's why I texted the crew. I texted Elizabeth and Sura and said, you know what? There's yours, Elizabeth. So.
Nice.
Yeah, actually, they had they didn't have one in my size that's got this one on it. But
did you tell them about Helical Brew?
I mentioned it briefly, but next time I'll have more time with the owner. He was brewing beer, so that's priority.
Strange.
Every time we put in HEL, they come up in every social platform. Google, yeah. So we're always
share
like,
Google.
Yeah.
Nobody else, exactly.
It's a sponsorship.
So
in the wings.
but their beer is great. The brewery is fantastic, and it was packed after an hour in to my time there. It was absolutely
what did you get?
packed. So they're doing well. I had a rye IPA, and I had it's a hazy, but it's barely hazy, and it tasted like a clear, just with a little bit of texture to it. And they were out of their regular clear IPA, so I'll come back. That's what he was brewing. So the place was cooking, like they were cooking that malt and the hops. It was
man, there's like nothing
just
like
the
that
right
smell.
time.
I love.
And then pulled pork barbecue truck came in. So
wow.
So sorry I didn't call you guys, but
whatever.
But
Mike,
I had a
whatever.
really good time without you.
I do know their schedule, and they were doing trivia night that one, so I missed that.
All right, Kate, we gotta go. You and I send him pictures and be like, "See, Mike, we can go without you."
I did get T-shirts for you.
We're heading out there.
You did. You did. Thank you.
Anyway, that'll be the requirement next time. Bring the T-shirts out, and because Elizabeth's got to get her T-shirt. You got to get your T-shirt. We'll go use that as another.
I'll buy you a cream
like San
barbecue
Diego's that far
too.
away. San Diego's a pretty regular turn on my cycle of places I visit, so won't be long. Well, thank you again, Kate, for coming on the podcast.
Guys.
We really enjoyed the conversation with you, and it sounds like you were having a ton of fun over there at Tecan and talking with customers.
I really am. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, lots of fun in automation. Excited to see you guys out in the field at a next SLAS or an LRIG event. Let's get out there. Let's keep automating.
The first time I saw you was at the LRIG up at the, what do they call that thing in Sorrento? I love that place, though. It's like a
New English Brewery.
No, it's next to New English. It's like an event thing that they've been doing, the LRIGs.
Yeah, this Del Mar Social.
Del Mar Social.
Yeah, that's a cool little spot, and it's bigger because like the community here is growing, and
everybody fits. There's an outdoor, indoor. I didn't feel like anyone was crowded, because sometimes those things, it's like people are just crowded in. It's hard to. The parking is the only downer there. You got to jaywalk on a nasty street.
Yeah,
that one. Yeah, get there.
For a larger space, I think the organizers did a really good job in picking that spot. Yeah,
no, it's great to see LRIG San Diego thriving, and it has for the last several years, so that's good. Well, for folks that are listening and watching, follow Kate on LinkedIn and see what automation looks like in the field, and check out tecan.com to learn more about their Fluent platform and other innovations. Kate Halter,
Thanks,
if you want to find her on LinkedIn. And so for our viewers and listeners, what's the most unexpectedly manual task still running in your lab? And what's stopping you from automating it? Send us your stories, helicalbrew@gmail.com. And of course, follow us on YouTube at Helical Brew on the YouTube channels list. Just look us up. Or if you just type in Helical Brew in Google, you'll find us in pretty much every platform. We only share that space with our friends over at Helix Brewing. It's always nice you can read about it while you're having a beer. Until next time, folks, this episode of Helical Brew is brewed.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us on the Helical Brew. We're glad to have you with us. For more episodes, please visit our website at helicalbrew.com. That's helicalbrew.com.
Who else do we have in your list of characters, Mike?
Well, it's a bit early for Arnold. We might be able to try something here and give
oh my God, you're going to love it. I was like, do I take
Arnold
this
voiceover
off of
There's
here?
something of this nature to speaking of
Put it on top of the bookcase.
Yeah, it's like
I'll just leave it. Just my
every important story you need to know in life is
gonna
right
have
there
one of
in
my
that
7
book.
tools
It's
for
perfect.
life.